Jeremy Stoner was born on July 16, 1980 in California. He was the third of four siblings, growing up with two older brothers, Jason and Joshua, and a younger brother, Justin. The family lived in Vallejo, a charming and vibrant city known for its unique beauty. Jeremy's childhood was filled with joy and innocence as he shared countless adventures with his brothers. Jason, the eldest, was a lively and cheerful child who loved learning new things, riding his bike, playing with toys, and watching cartoons. His radiant smile and kind-hearted nature made him the center of attention in their tight-knit family. On the morning of Saturday, February 21st, 1987, 6-year-old Jeremy was playing outside near his home with his brothers, aged 9 and 11. Their parents were at work, and the boys were left under the care of a relative. Unfortunately, the relative had to leave abruptly to take their sick daughter to the emergency room, leaving the boys alone with instructions to stay inside until their parents returned. However, being adventurous children, they decided to visit a neighbor's house instead. While they were there, Jeremy accidentally spilled food, prompting the neighbor to scold him. Feeling upset, the boys left the house. When Jeremy's mother returned home at 4 p.m., she found the house empty. Initially, she assumed the boys were still playing at the neighbor's house as usual. However, when the older boys returned home 2 hours later without Jeremy, the family immediately grew concerned. They began searching the neighborhood, asking neighbors if they had seen him, but their efforts were in vain. Fearing the worst, they contacted the Vallejo Police Department to report Jeremy missing. Police quickly launched an investigation and determined that Jeremy had likely been abducted. Witnesses reported seeing Jeremy at a Dairy Queen on Springs Road, about a 5-minute walk from his home, around 7:30 p.m. that evening. According to a worker at the restaurant, Jeremy was accompanied by an adult male. This sighting was the last confirmed moment Jeremy was seen alive. 4 days later, on February 25th, 1987, Jeremy's lifeless body was discovered on Sherman Island in Sacramento County. 4 drivers had become stuck in the mud along Sherman Island Road and were searching for something to place under their tires when one of them stumbled upon his remains. Jeremy had been brutally assaulted, stabbed, and strangled. The horrific discovery left everyone at the scene shaken. Police were immediately called to the site, where they collected evidence and secured the area for further investigation. The news of Jeremy's tragic death spread quickly through Vallejo, leaving the entire community devastated. People were outraged by the senseless violence inflicted on such a young and innocent child. They mourned deeply for the Stoner family and came together to show their support. Neighbors brought flowers and cards to the family, offering hugs and kind words. The community organized a candlelight vigil to honor Jeremy's memory, lighting candles and praying for peace for his soul and strength for his grieving family. Vallejo Mayor Terry Cura expressed his heartfelt sympathy, stating that for 4 days, the people of Vallejo had become a part of the Stoner family, searching, crying, and praying for Jeremy. A week after Jeremy's death, a suspect emerged. Shaw Quincy Melton, an unemployed security guard, voluntarily walked into the Vallejo Police Department, claiming to have information about the case. Melton, a man with a troubled past, presented himself as an amateur investigator who wanted to assist the police. He claimed he had been following the case closely and hoped his insights could help solve it. However, as the interrogation unfolded, Melton's behavior raised suspicions. His demeanor shifted from confidence to unease, and investigators began to question his motives. Melton's background only fueled these suspicions. He was the author of a controversial book titled Wolf's Den, which depicted the exploitation of children. Although he insisted the book was purely fictional, many believed it reflected his own disturbing fantasies. A psychologist who had worked with Melton contacted authorities and warned them that Melton had confessed to having troubling thoughts about young boys. The psychologist expressed concerns that Melton might pose a danger to children and could potentially be connected to Jeremy's case. Police interrogated Melton for 30 hours, pressing him for details and conducting a polygraph test. They created a composite sketch of him and compared it to descriptions provided by witnesses. Despite their efforts, Melton adamantly denied any involvement in the crime. He passed the polygraph test, and the composite sketch did not match the witness descriptions of the abductor. Melton maintained that his sole intention was to help the investigation and clear his name. However, authorities were not convinced and pursued a new theory. They speculated that Melton might suffer from dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. They proposed that one of his alternate identities, named John Wolfe, could have committed the crime without Melton's conscious awareness. Police arrested Melton on charges of abduction and murder, but the case lacked concrete evidence to support these allegations. 2 separate trials ended in hung juries, forcing the judge to dismiss the case. Melton died in 2000, taking any secrets he may have held to his grave. For decades, Jeremy Stoner's case remained unsolved, classified as a cold case due to the absence of new evidence or leads. The Stoner family and the Vallejo community continued to mourn the loss of a bright, joyful child whose life was cut tragically short. However, in 2023, advancements in forensic science brought a glimmer of hope. Using cutting-edge DNA technology, investigators uncovered new clues that could finally lead to answers. Though the details of these findings have not yet been released, the breakthrough has reignited hope that justice will be served, and Jeremy's story will finally have the closure it deserves. Jeremy Stoner's legacy lives on as a poignant reminder of the importance of perseverance in the pursuit of justice. His story has left an indelible mark on those who knew him and those who have come to learn about his life and untimely death. For the Stoner family and the Vallejo community, the hope remains that the truth will one day come to light, bringing peace to Jeremy's memory and to all who loved him. Melton, a person of interest in the case of Jeremy Stoner, was subjected to intense police interrogation that lasted for 30 hours. During this marathon questioning, officers posed a variety of probing questions and administered a polygraph test. Additionally, investigators created a composite sketch of Melton to compare against witness descriptions of the suspected kidnapper. These efforts aimed to gather critical information and establish any potential involvement Melton might have had in Jeremy's disappearance and tragic death. Throughout the interrogation, Melton maintained his innocence. He adamantly denied any knowledge of or connection to the crime, insisting he was uninvolved. He successfully passed the polygraph test, and the composite sketch based on his appearance did not align with the descriptions provided by witnesses who claimed to have seen Jeremy and his suspected abductor. Melton reiterated that his only intention was to assist law enforcement in solving the case. Despite these factors seemingly clearing him, investigators were not fully convinced of his innocence. Law enforcement took their suspicions a step further, forming a controversial and unsettling theory. They alleged that Melton suffered from dissociative identity disorder, DID, previously known as multiple personality disorder, and proposed that one of his alternate personalities, named John Wolfe, could have committed the heinous crime. This theory suggested that Melton might have been unaware of these actions due to memory dissociation often associated with DID. Based on this hypothesis, authorities decided to arrest Melton on charges of kidnapping and murdering Jeremy Stoner. However, the evidence against Melton was circumstantial at best. Despite 2 separate trials, the prosecution failed to provide conclusive proof of his guilt. Both trials ended with hung juries, leaving the judge with no choice but to dismiss the case. Melton was released, and the lack of resolution left the case in limbo. In 2000, Melton passed away, still adamantly denying any involvement in the crime. His death further deepened the frustration of Jeremy's family and the community, as they were left with unanswered questions and no justice for the young boy. For decades, Jeremy's case remained a haunting cold case, categorized as unsolved due to the absence of new leads or breakthroughs. The Stoner family continued to live with the grief of losing Jeremy in such a brutal and senseless manner. Vallejo, the community that had rallied around the family during those dark days, never forgot the tragedy that shook their town. However, the passage of time seemed to render the case stagnant, with no tangible progress or hope for closure. In 2023, more than 35 years after Jeremy's murder, a breakthrough in forensic science reignited hope for solving the case. Advancements in DNA technology provided investigators with a powerful tool to revisit cold cases. This cutting-edge technology enabled law enforcement to extract and analyze DNA from evidence collected at the crime scene and compare it against profiles in criminal databases. DNA, a person's unique genetic code, holds the potential to identify individuals with remarkable accuracy and even establish familial relationships. Through meticulous work, forensic experts identified a DNA match, finally pointing to a suspect, Fred Maran Cain III. Cain, a 69-year-old man, was arrested at his residence in Central Point, Oregon. The discovery shocked many, as Cain had largely evaded suspicion for decades. His arrest marked a turning point in the case, offering the first tangible hope for justice since Jeremy's body was discovered in 1987. Solano County District Attorney Krishna Abrams commended the cold case investigators for their unyielding dedication. "I am incredibly grateful for the persistence and commitment of these investigators," Abrams stated. "No matter how much time has passed, they remain steadfast in their mission to resolve even the most horrifying crimes." Media reports revealed that Cain had a troubling past, with allegations of violent behavior. In 1984, Cain, then 30 years old, was accused of assaulting a 17-year-old boy in San Bernardino County. Alongside a roommate, he was arrested on charges of assault with a deadly weapon, with enhancements due to his 4 prior felony convictions. However, Cain was acquitted by a jury later that year. Despite his troubled history, he managed to evade significant legal consequences, allowing him to live under the radar for years. Jeremy's murder has often been linked in discussions to the case of Eric Coy, another young boy who fell victim to a brutal crime just a month before Jeremy's disappearance. In late January 1987, 9-year-old Eric Coy was riding his bicycle between his home in Martinez and a relative's house. Familiar with the route, Eric frequently made the trip on his own. On that fateful day, he left home around 11 a.m., but failed to call home upon arriving at his destination. Concerned, his family initiated a search. Tragically, Eric's body was discovered near Martinez Junior High School. He had been stabbed nearly a dozen times. Like Jeremy's case, Eric's murder remains unsolved to this day. Authorities have urged anyone with information about Eric's case to contact the District Attorney's Cold Case Unit at 707-784-4847. Fred Cain made his first court appearance in Solano County on September 28, 2023. Jeremy's family, who had long awaited justice, was present in the courtroom. Jeremy's mother, Karen Tabler, expressed mixed emotions as she faced the man accused of her son's murder. "I don't know if it's relief, but it's certainly something," she said, her voice heavy with emotion. She admitted that it was incredibly difficult to be in the same room as Cain. Solano County Deputy District Attorney Paul Sequeira reflected on the family's pain, saying, "I don't think you ever really get closure. I've worked in this field for a long time, and I've never seen a family truly achieve closure. But I do believe there's some comfort in knowing that someone is being held accountable." The arrest of Fred Cain represents a significant step forward in the pursuit of justice for Jeremy Stoner. While the road to resolution has been long and fraught with challenges, the Stoner family and the Vallejo community hold on to the hope that the truth will finally be revealed, offering some measure of peace to Jeremy's memory. His story stands as a reminder of the enduring pain of loss and the relentless pursuit of justice, even decades after a tragedy unfolds. For Jeremy's family, the fight for justice has always been about ensuring that his short life will never be forgotten and that those responsible will face the consequences of their actions. Carrie Anne Cummings was a vibrant 25-year-old woman from Eureka, California, whose life took a tragic and mysterious turn in 1997. Known for her intelligence, humor, and artistic talents, Carrie was adored by her family and friends. However, she struggled with mental health challenges, which ultimately shaped the final years of her life. Carrie had spent time in a psychiatric hospital, but decided to discontinue treatment, opting to face her struggles alone. Despite her family's desperate pleas to return home and let them support her, Carrie made a firm decision. She would relocate to Eugene, Oregon, and sleep wherever she could find shelter. This was the last her family ever heard from her. Her sudden disappearance devastated her loved ones, who immediately took action to find her. Her parents reported her as a missing person and hired a private investigator in hopes of uncovering any leads. However, law enforcement initially offered little help, citing that Carrie as an adult had the right to choose her lifestyle. They assured the family that unless she was a threat to herself or others, they could not legally intervene. Despite this, Carrie's sister, Kathy, refused to give up. For years, Kathy searched tirelessly, using every resource at her disposal. As the internet expanded, She combed through missing person databases and photos of unidentified women, scanning for Carrie's tattoos or any other distinguishing features. Though her efforts were exhaustive, no answers came. 1 year later, in November 1998, a shocking confession rocked Eureka. Wayne Adam Ford, a 36-year-old truck driver, walked into the local police department with a Bible in one hand and a severed body part of a woman in a plastic bag in the other. Ford admitted to murdering 4 women, but claimed he could only name 3 of them. The known victims included Tina Renee Gibbs, 26, whose body was discovered near Willow Creek, California, Lynette Dion White, 25, found in an irrigation canal in Ontario, California, and Patricia Ann Thomas, 29, whose remains were recovered from a water pipe in San Bernardino County. The identity of the 4th victim, however, remained a mystery. Ford's chilling confession spurred an extensive investigation. Authorities scoured multiple locations linked to him and uncovered more remains. These included body parts found by duck hunters near Eureka in October 1997, additional remains discovered at Clam Beach in January 1998, and evidence from Ford's campsite. Despite their efforts, investigators were unable to identify the 4th victim. Advanced DNA testing was conducted, and the samples were compared to California's Missing Persons Database, as well as the National Database of Unidentified Individuals. Unfortunately, no matches were found. In 2006, 8 years after his arrest, Ford was convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to life imprisonment at San Quentin State Prison. The mystery of his unnamed victim persisted, haunting investigators and the families of missing individuals. For over 2 decades, the case remained unsolved, and Carrie's family continued to live with unanswered questions. The loss of contact with Carrie and the lingering uncertainty surrounding her fate left an indelible mark on her loved ones. Kathy described the pain of not knowing as unbearable, but she never stopped hoping for closure. She kept Carrie's memory alive, recalling her sister's laughter, creativity, and kind spirit. Carrie had been more than a sister. She had been a light in their lives, and the void left by her disappearance could never be filled. In 2021, Humboldt County Sheriff William Hansel launched a cold case unit dedicated to revisiting unresolved cases. With the advancements in forensic technology, the team hoped to bring closure to families who had waited years or even decades for answers. By December 2022, the unit partnered with Othram, a forensic genealogy laboratory renowned for its cutting-edge work in identifying unknown victims. The lab employed a technique known as forensic genome sequencing to construct a genetic profile of the unidentified victim. Using this profile, genealogists built a family tree by tracing DNA matches to potential relatives. Months of painstaking research led to a breakthrough. Othram identified a close relative of the unidentified woman, allowing detectives to contact her family. One relative confirmed that she had a family member who had gone missing in the late 1990s. This discovery led investigators to Kathy, who immediately provided a DNA sample for comparison. In 2023, after 25 long years, the remains of the unidentified victim were conclusively identified as those of Carrie Anne Cummings. The revelation brought mixed emotions to Carrie's family. On the one hand, they finally had answers after years of uncertainty. On the other hand, the confirmation of Carrie's death solidified the reality of their loss. Kathy shared her thoughts about her sister, describing her as beautiful, funny, intelligent, and artistic. She added, "Carrie had a special way of making us laugh. It's heartbreaking what mental illness can do in such a short amount of time." Sheriff William Hansel praised the efforts of his team and their partners, stating, "While we cannot erase the pain of losing someone, we hope that this identification brings some measure of closure to Carrie's family and the community. I am deeply grateful for the dedication of our investigators and the advancements in forensic science that made this possible." The Humboldt County Coroner's Office has since begun the process of returning Carrie's remains to her family. Plans are underway to lay her to rest alongside her loved ones, ensuring she is finally honored with dignity and respect. Although the journey to uncover the truth took 25 years, Carrie's family can now say goodbye and find some semblance of peace. Carrie Anne Cummings' story is a poignant reminder of the devastating effects of mental illness, the pain of unanswered questions, and the resilience of families who refuse to give up. Her case also highlights the critical role of modern forensic science in solving cold cases and bringing justice to those who have been forgotten. While her loss remains a tragedy, the efforts to identify her and return her to her family underscore the enduring power of hope and determination in the face of unimaginable grief. In the 1980s, Kathy Spacito was a high school student in Brooklyn, New York. Known for her love of art and nature, Kathy was an ambitious and kind-hearted young woman who dreamed of making a difference. After high school, she moved to Prescott, Arizona to attend Prescott College, where she quickly adapted to her new surroundings. Kathy became an avid hiker, exploring the scenic trails of the Prescott National Forest, and developed close friendships with her peers. Her adventurous spirit and artistic soul made her a cherished part of the community. On the evening of June 12, 1987, 23-year-old Kathy went out to dinner with friends. During their time together, she mentioned her plans to hike the following morning, a routine she cherished. The next day on June 13, at around 7 a.m., Kathy left her home on her mountain bike and headed toward the trailhead. She planned to hike a popular trail located within the Prescott National Forest, only a 10-minute drive from downtown Prescott. This well-traveled path was frequented by hikers and was widely considered safe. Kathy's day began like any other hike, but tragedy soon struck. Shortly after she started her ascent, nearby hikers reported hearing a woman screaming for help. The dense and rugged terrain delayed their ability to locate the source of the cries. By the time they reached Kathy, it was too late. Her lifeless body was discovered along the trail in a scene so horrifying that it would shake the community to its core. One of the hikers called the authorities immediately, initiating an investigation that would span decades. The news of Kathy's brutal murder devastated Prescott. The trail, which had been a place of solace and recreation for many, was now marked by violence and fear. An autopsy revealed the gruesome details of Kathy's death. She had suffered blunt force trauma to the right side of her head, inflicted by 2 rocks and a makeshift wrench found at the scene. She was also shot in the face with a .22 caliber gun, with the bullet passing through her eye but not penetrating her brain. In addition, Kathy had been stabbed in the side of her head, though the sharp object used in the stabbing was never recovered. The combination of injuries pointed to a violent and premeditated attack. The investigation faced immediate challenges. There were no witnesses to the crime, and the rugged wilderness provided limited physical evidence. Detectives considered the possibility that more than one perpetrator might have been involved. Yavapai County Sheriff David Rhodes commented, "You have to keep every door open. If this case gets solved, it will undoubtedly be through DNA." The lack of leads left the case cold for years, despite the introduction of emerging forensic technologies. By 2021, the Prescott community still mourned Kathy's loss. Yavapai Silent Witness, a local organization dedicated to solving crimes, offered a $110,000 reward for any anonymous tips that could lead to identifying Kathy's killer. Kathy's brother, Sal Bazito, remained resolute in his search for answers. Sal flew from New York to visit the crime scene with detectives, where he pleaded with the public to come forward with any information. "You never want to give up hope," Sal said during an interview. He described the moment he learned of his sister's death as the most shocking news no one should ever have to experience. In an effort to keep Kathy's memory alive, her former high school classmates also joined in raising awareness. One classmate wrote an email to fellow alumni, sharing her sorrow and urging them to pray for closure. She recounted a recent trip to Prescott with her husband, during which she saw a large poster in a store window displaying Kathy's picture. The poster served as a reminder that Kathy's case remained unsolved and that the search for justice continued. The classmate expressed hope, saying, "It's comforting to know that her memory and the quest for justice are still alive." In August 2023, after 36 years of uncertainty, a breakthrough finally emerged. During a press conference, Sheriff Rhodes announced that advancements in DNA technology had identified Kathy's killer as Brian Scott Bennett. Bennett, a former Arizona resident, had a criminal history, including a 1991 conviction for forgery. Though he had no prior convictions for violent crimes, investigators believed Kathy was his first victim. DNA evidence also linked Bennett to a 1980 attack on another woman along the same trail where Kathy was killed. This second victim had been camping with her boyfriend and was attacked while hiking alone. The investigation into Bennett's crimes revealed a disturbing pattern. In 1993, he attacked another woman, Renee Sandel, after forcing her into her car at knife point. Renee managed to escape when a police officer stopped Bennett's car for a routine traffic violation. Reflecting on her ordeal, Renee stated, "He is the reason I am here today. I want everyone to pray for the victims who never had a voice and for those who survived." Bennett's identification was made possible through familial DNA analysis. Investigators used genealogical techniques to trace a female descendant of Bennett, who led them to the suspect. To confirm the match, authorities exhumed Bennett's remains in November 2022 as he had passed away years earlier. The DNA comparison conclusively tied him to both Kathy's murder and the 1990 attack. While the revelation brought a sense of resolution, it also evoked mixed emotions. Sal Spacito, still mourning the loss of his sister, stated, "My mother died heartbroken because of what happened to Kathy. She never got the answers she deserved." Sheriff Rhodes reflected on the significance of solving the case, saying, "We are giving a voice back to the victims and answers to their families. While we can't undo the pain, we hope this brings some measure of peace." Kathy's story is a testament to the resilience of her family, the dedication of law enforcement, and the advancements in forensic science. Although justice was delayed, her memory lives on, and her case serves as a reminder of the importance of never giving up in the pursuit of truth. Kathy Spacito will forever be remembered as a bright, adventurous soul whose legacy continues to inspire hope and perseverance. In 2021, Yavapai County Sheriff David Rhodes spoke at length about the case of Kathy Spacito, reflecting on the haunting mystery of her brutal murder. It had been 34 years since Kathy's life was senselessly taken, but Rhodes assured the public that his team of detectives and cold case investigators had not forgotten her. 34 years is a long time, Rhodes acknowledged. Many people have moved on with their lives, but our team has not stopped working. We know someone out there has information about what happened to Kathy, and we hope they find the courage to come forward and do the right thing. Kathy's brother, Sal Spacito, echoed the sheriff's sentiments during a deeply emotional interview. Sal described the devastating moment he first learned of his sister's murder, saying, "It was shocking, something no one should ever have to experience. This wasn't an accident. Someone was furious enough, angry enough to take her life." Sal's anguish was compounded by the fact that the case remained unsolved for decades, leaving his family with unanswered questions. He shared how the pain of Kathy's death reverberated through their family, leading to heartbreak and loss. Their father passed away in 2010 without ever knowing the truth, and their mother died a few years later, still burdened by grief. "I've always said my mother died of a broken heart because of what happened to Kathy," Sal revealed. For decades, Kathy's case haunted the Prescott community and her family. Despite advances in forensic science and countless hours of investigation, the case remained cold. Detectives worked tirelessly to find new leads, knowing that even the smallest piece of evidence could bring them closer to solving the case. Yavapai Silent Witness, a local organization, offered a $110,000 reward for any anonymous tips that could help identify Kathy's killer. However, progress was painfully slow, and hope began to dwindle. Yet Kathy's family never gave up. Sal flew from New York to Prescott to visit the crime scene with detectives, pleading with anyone who might know something to come forward. "You never want to give up hope," Sal said, holding on to the possibility that justice might one day prevail. In 2023, after decades of uncertainty, a breakthrough finally came. On August 25, 2023, Sheriff Rhodes announced during a press conference that advancements in DNA technology had led to the identification of Kathy's killer, Brian Scott Bennett. "Today, we can finally say with confidence that we know who is responsible for this horrific crime," Rhodes declared. The announcement was the result of years of meticulous work by detectives and forensic scientists who used modern DNA analysis to crack the case. Bennett, who had a history of criminal behavior, was initially an unassuming suspect. In 1991, he was convicted of forgery and sentenced to 3 years of probation. While he had no known convictions for violent offenses at the time, investigators now believe Kathy was his first victim. The evidence against Bennett grew stronger when detectives linked him to a 1990 attack on another woman along the same Prescott Trail where Kathy was killed. The victim, a woman in her 30s, had been camping with her boyfriend and was attacked while hiking alone during the day. DNA evidence from that case matched samples taken from Kathy's murder, allowing detectives to connect the two crimes. The key breakthrough came through familial DNA analysis, a cutting-edge forensic technique that has revolutionized the investigation of cold cases. Detectives partnered with a genealogy lab to construct a family tree using DNA evidence. This process led them to a female descendant of Bennett, who provided critical information that allowed investigators to pinpoint him as the primary suspect. To confirm their findings, authorities exhumed Bennett's remains in November 2022, as he had died years earlier. DNA extracted from his remains conclusively matched evidence from both Kathy's murder and the 1990 attack. Further investigation into Bennett's history revealed a disturbing pattern of violence. In 1993, Bennett attacked another woman, Renee Sandel, after forcing her into her car at knife point. Renee, who had just left a post office in Prescott, endured a terrifying ordeal before finally escaping when a police officer stopped Bennett's vehicle for failing to dim his headlights. Reflecting on her experience, Renee said, "He is the reason I'm here today. I want people to pray for the victims who never had a voice and for those of us who survived." The revelations about Bennett's crimes have raised questions about whether there may be additional victims. Sheriff Rhodes remarked, "What we know about violent predators like Bennett is that they rarely stop after just a few crimes. These 4 cases may only be the beginning." Detectives are continuing to investigate Bennett's past, working to determine whether other unsolved cases might also be connected to him. The resolution of Kathy's case brought mixed emotions to her family and the Prescott community. For Kathy's brother Sal, the identification of her killer was both a relief and a reminder of the pain his family endured. "My parents never got to see justice for Kathy," Sal said, "but I'm grateful that we finally have answers. It doesn't bring her back, but it brings some peace knowing we finally know the truth." Sheriff Rhodes emphasized the importance of this breakthrough, not only for Kathy's family, but also for the community as a whole. "This case is about giving a voice back to the voiceless," he said. "It's about providing answers to the families of victims and offering justice to the communities that have been haunted by these tragedies. While we can't undo the pain, we hope this brings some measure of peace." Kathy's case serves as a powerful testament to the resilience of her family, the dedication of law enforcement, and the transformative power of forensic science. After 36 years, the truth has finally come to light, and Kathy's memory can now be honored with the dignity and justice she deserved. While the scars of her loss will never fully heal, her story reminds us of the importance of perseverance in the face of adversity and the enduring pursuit of truth. Kathy Spacito will forever be remembered as a bright, adventurous soul whose legacy continues to inspire hope and justice.